Prologue: The Council's Arrogance. The Great Council of Carvel, a chamber of 70 alien species, was the closest thing the galaxy had to law. They believed themselves untouchable keepers of order, arbiters of peace. When lesser races quarreled, the council decided. When empires clashed, they dictated terms. To them, Earth was a minor world on the edge of mapped space. Ambitious, loud, irritating, yet weak. So when a human envoy, Ambassador Jonathan Hale, walked into their marble-scaled hall wearing a simple dark suit, the council saw not a diplomat but prey. Hale's mission was simple: defend humanity's rights after a trade convoy was slaughtered by a council-favored empire. He spoke firmly, citing treaties, laws, and rights signed under the council's own banner. The chamber laughed. Words meant nothing. Power was everything, and so the council voted not to honor the treaties but to humiliate Earth. Guards dragged Hale forward. On the floor of the chamber, before thousands of witnesses, the alien chancellor raised a ceremonial blade, a swift strike. A human diplomat cut down like a stray animal. They called it justice. They called it dominance. They did not know what they had unleashed. The mockery. For days across alien systems, recordings spread. The clip of Hale's execution was broadcast like theater. See how fragile the humans are. See how powerless they remain. The Zerathi with their obsidian spines mocked Earth's politeness. The Vaker with their flame-eyed arrogance called humans children who wandered into a lion's den. Across the stars, laughter echoed. They believed Earth would send petitions, angry words, perhaps a token fleet easily shattered. They believed humanity's reputation for restraint was weakness. They believed the Terran Union would bow. The council chambers filled with self-congratulation. They toasted Hale's death as the lesson of the century. But Earth was silent. And that silence was far more terrifying than they understood. The silence before the storm. Weeks passed, no reply, no declaration, no vengeance. Alien analysts smirked on galactic broadcasts. Humans bark, but they do not bite. A Zerathi general declared, Earth is too civilized. They bleed once and they retreat. But in the deep void, away from cameras and council eyes, the silence was alive. Terran shipyards glowed like suns as dreadnought hulls slid into black oceans of space. War factories roared, birthing weapons never tested in combat. Ancient bunkers opened, sealed vaults unlocked. Names not spoken in centuries. Leviathan protocols, Nemesis engines, silent fleets, whispered awake. Humanity had not been idle during their rise. They had prepared quietly, methodically. For every treaty broken against them, they had forged weapons in shadows. For every insult endured, they had built vengeance. When Hale's blood stained the council's marble, those vaults were opened without hesitation. The first signal. The silence broke with a whisper. On every council channel, a transmission cut through, in a voice cold, human, and undeniable. You drew blood in your chamber. Now hear this: you mistook courtesy for weakness. You mistook patience for fear. You murdered a diplomat. You murdered peace. Now Earth answers. The signal ended. No demands, no negotiations, just the promise. Alien empires scrambled fleets. Panic rippled. But by then it was too late. The shattering of suns. The first strike came against the Vaker fleets, the very empire that had demanded Hale's death. In a single night, 3 of their star fortresses fell. Human dreadnoughts, black-hulled and vast, emerged like ghosts. They did not speak. They did not parley. They unleashed silence and fire. Plasma storms boiled across their battle lines. Precision kinetic strikes punched through world shields like glass. When the survivors sent pleas for mercy, human ships cut comms. No reply. The galaxy had seen war, but this was different. This was extermination with surgical clarity, every shot deliberate, every strike absolute, not a single wasted word. Across the stars, entire fleets vanished in the dark, and still Earth said nothing. The fall of the Council's armies. The Council assembled its Grand Armada, a coalition of species who once sneered at one another, now bound in terror of Earth. 20,000 warships, the largest fleet in recorded history. They converged at the Nexus Gate, a choke point they believed humanity must cross. They waited, weapons charged, confident numbers would matter. Then the void itself screamed. From the black, Terran silent fleets emerged, not in hundreds but in tens of thousands. Cloaked until the final second, they decloaked as one, surrounding the Council Armada on every side. No announcement, no demand for surrender. The stars vanished under fire. Council ships burned like paper. Admirals cried into comms as human frigates tore through formations. Dreadnoughts ripped apart their carriers, and swarms of autonomous war drones descended like storms. Within hours, the grandest fleet in galactic history was not merely defeated. It was erased. The human face of death. And then came Earth's ground legions. Armored soldiers landed on Council worlds, faceless in black exosuits, their silence more dreadful than any war cry. They moved like inevitability, unstoppable, unyielding. Civilians whispered of death in a suit, remembering the image of Ambassador Hale in his simple Terran black. Now, that image multiplied by millions walked their streets. Resistance shattered. Armies laid down arms, not from defeat, but from the crushing certainty that defeat was guaranteed. The Council's chamber burns. At last, Terran forces reached the Council itself, the same chamber where Hale had been murdered. The marble floor was stained again, but now with alien blood. The counselors who had laughed the loudest were dragged from their thrones. Some begged, some cursed, none were spared. On the central dais, where Hale had once stood, a lone Terran admiral placed his black-gloved hand on the blood-soaked stone. "One envoy was worth more than all your empires," he said, his voice echoing through every broadcast channel. "Remember this." The council chamber burned. The galaxy watched in silence. The aftermath, whispers of fear. When the fires died, what remained of the council scattered like ash. Empires withdrew into isolation. Trade routes fell silent. In every tavern, on every broadcast, one phrase spread: "Never provoke Earth again." They remembered Hale's suit, his quiet dignity, and the vengeance that followed. They called him Death in a Suit, the diplomat who became the symbol of annihilation. His execution had been meant as humiliation. Instead, it became humanity's eternal banner. And so the galaxy learned, humanity's patience is vast. Their silence is endless. But when broken, when their blood is spilled, their vengeance is infinite. Epilogue: The New Order. In the years that followed, no council dared reassemble. No empire dared challenge. Where once humans were mocked as children, they were now spoken of as inevitability. Treaties were signed without argument. Borders redrawn in Earth's favor without protest. For across the stars, survivors remembered fleets blotting out suns, soldiers walking like storms, and a single phrase that turned laughter into dread: "Death in a Suit." And so ended the age of arrogance. And so began the age of humanity.